Welcome to All This Math. This is Professor Parker, and today we're coming at you with a lesson on percentages and how to calculate percentages. But this method is a little like unconventional, but I taught this method last year for the first time with my Math for Teachers course here at Cheney University for the first time, and I just recently taught it the other day to some current students. And I just really like this method, and it's something that kind of a lot of us probably do using mental math when we're out and about. And I really just think it's something that everybody should know how to do if they don't already know how to do it, right? So this is like an aspect of mathematics that is like you're able to use on a regular daily basis, and you're shopping or whatever you're doing, you're out spending money, or if you're engaged in any type of commerce, right? And this is called calculating percentages using a percent table. Right? Might sound a little complex, but it's really not that complex. And I'm going to break it down for you. So we start with a question, right? The question I have up here is, what is 17% of $48? And then I say, use the percent table method. So here we have a top row of a table, right? This is actually outside of the table. So 17% of 48. And basically what the percent table method is, we take 100% and we break it down into manageable pieces. So we might break it down into 10% and then use that to arrive at our 17% amount, right? So think about it like this. I could break 17% down into 10% and 7%. So if I know what 10% of 48 is, and then I know what 7% of 48 is, I could just add those dollar amounts together. And then I would have 17% of $48. But then you might say, oh, well, how would I know what 7% is? All 7% is just 1% 7 times. So if you could figure out what 10% is, right? And I'm going to show you how to do that, because really when you find out 10% of anything, all you're doing is moving the decimal point one space to the left. That's all you're doing. When you find 10% of anything, I'm going to repeat that again because that's critical. When you're looking for 10% of any number, it don't matter what the number is, all you're doing is taking the decimal point and moving it one space to the left. That's 10%. And if you want to find 1% of any number, you locate the decimal point and you move it 2 spaces to the left, right? And we can work with that. All right. So now, or hold up, before I go on, I could also come another way. I know that 17% is close to 20%. So I could look at it like, all right, 20% minus 3% will give me 17%. See, 20% minus 3% will give me 17%. So if I can figure out what 10% is, I just need to double that to get to 20. And then I find 1%, multiply that by 3, because 1% times 3 is 3%, and then that gives me 17%. That might sound a little confusing, but I'm gonna show you when I break this down in the percent table, it should make a lot more sense. So let me show you the step-by-step method, right? So first you start with 100% of the number of the 100% of the number that we're dealing with. Right now we're dealing with $48, right? That's the dollar amount. And we don't always have to talk about money. It could be an amount of something else and a number of objects. It could be anything. But right now we're talking about money. So this is our percent column. And then we draw an arrow, and this is our dollar column. So 100% is $48, right? Now if I want to know what 17% is, I'm going to do, like I said, I'm going to do 10%. And you know what I'm going to do to keep my math even simpler? Watch this. I'm going to do 10% plus 5% plus 2%. See, 10 plus 5 plus 2 is 17. And that makes my mental math even easier, because watch what's going to happen. So first I want to figure out what 10% of 48 is. So I write that, and I write 10%. Now, I don't need a calculator for this. I don't even need to do a whole lot of thinking for this. To find 10% of any number, like I said, you locate the decimal point in the original number and just move it one space to the left. Now, somebody out there watching this might say, well, 48 don't have no decimal point. And you're right. There's no decimal point written in 48. But we understand that 48 can be represented as 48.00, like money, right? The dollar's over to the left, the change to the right. So there's an invisible decimal point in every number. In every number, there's an invisible decimal point. So now I move this decimal point one space to the left. It becomes 4.80. So 10% is $4.80. So you see how I did that? 100% is $48. 10% is $4.80. All right. Now, so now I know my 10%. So I know this is part of my answer. This is part of my dollar amount, part of my 17%. I got my 10% right there. Now I mentioned 5%, right? I could do 5%. Now, how does the number 5 relate to the number 10? 5 is half of 10, right? So that means 5% is half of whatever 10% is. So I write 5%. And now I just got to think to myself, okay, what's half of $4.80? Now that's mental math that we should know how to do. Think about it in terms of money. You divide your dollars in half. Then you divide your change in half. Half of $4 is $2. Half of 80 cents is 40 cents. So half of $4.80 is $2.40. Check it out. So now I know my 10% and I know my 5%. Now pause for a moment and make sure that this makes sense to you. If 10% is $4.80 and 10% is just 1/10 of 100%, that should make sense. The 10% part should make sense. The 5% part should make sense because 5 is half of 10. So if 5 is half of 10, then 5% is half of 10%. So then the money that 10% represents should be double whatever the 5% represents. Or the 5%, the money that 5% represents should be half of the money that 10% represents. So 5% should be $2.40. So we already got our 10%. Now we got our 5%. Now we got to figure out our 2%. Now, there's a couple ways I could do this. I could divide this by 50, which I wouldn't do because that's, again, that just makes it complicated. We're trying to stay away from complexity, right? Or I could divide 10 by 5, but I want to stay away from that too. What I want to do is find 1% and then double that number because 1 times 2 is 2. So I find 1% of this, of 100%, by moving my decimal point how many times? Twice. When you want to find 1% of any number, you move the decimal point twice. And make sure you move it to the left. Don't move it to the right, because if you move it to the right, you're making it bigger. That's like multiplying it by 100. We're actually dividing by 100 when we find 1%. Because think about this. Isn't 100 divided by 100 equal to 1? So when you're moving the decimal point 2 spaces to the left, you're actually dividing by 100. All right, so $48, move the decimal point 2 spaces to the left. That is 48 cents, right? So, but I need 2%. So 2% is going to be double whatever 1% is. Because 1 times 2 gives me 2. Right? So now I'm like, okay, so now I need to double 48 cents. So I double 48 cents, that's change, right? Think about place value. Double the 40 and then double the 8. If you double 40, you get 80. If you double 8, you get 16. So now you got 80 plus 16. 80 plus 16, that's 96. So this is going to be 96 cents. So now I know my 2%. So now, in order to figure out 17%, I got to add up these 3 numbers. All right. Now, the addition is really not that difficult. It might seem like it's going to be difficult, but the addition is not really that difficult because all I'm doing is I'm adding place value. So I'm adding my dollars. $4 plus $2. That's $6, right? So let me write that down. And then I'm adding my change. 80 cents plus 40 cents is $1.20, right? $1.20 plus 90, that's going to give me $2.10. $1.20 plus 90 is going to give me 210. Let me write that down. Yeah, $1.20 plus 90 is going to give me 210. And then I'm adding the pennies, 0 pennies, 0 pennies, 6 pennies. All right, so now I got, so $6 and $2 is $8. $8.10 plus another 6 cents. We got $8.16. So this is 17% of $48. $8.16. And I know I wrote everything down, so it looks more complicated than what it really is. Actually, like, you know, in a real life situation, when you're out in a store or you're out and about and you're trying to calculate percentages, it wouldn't be this difficult because you'll be doing all this in your head. And a lot of it deals with just practice and becoming comfortable and used to doing this. Like I said, there's some people that already do this, and there are a lot of us that have never been exposed to anything like this. And what I would like is for more of us to be exposed to this and to start doing this on a regular basis, right? There are other ways to calculate percentages. There's algebraic algorithms involving proportions where we cross multiply and then divide on both sides using multiplication principles and different things like that. We can use equivalent fractions sometimes, depending on if it makes sense, if the numbers are divisible by each other, you know, we could do that. But this is a method that I think is underutilized. Like I said, we also could have found 20% and then just subtracted 3% from that. For example, if I want to know 20%, I just double the 10 to get 20%, right? And then I know 1%, I multiply this by 3. So what I could have also did was this, right? So 20% was going to be 480 times 2. So 480 times 2 is going to be 8 plus $1.60. So that's like $9.60, right? And I got to subtract 3%. So 1% is 48 cents. So 3% would be 48 cents times 3, right? And this is just another way to get the same answer, right? So 40 times 3 is $1.20. 8 times 3 is 24. So $1.20 plus 24 cents is $1.44. So in my head, I'm doing 960 minus 144. That's my 20%. That's 3% of this $48. 20% minus 3% is 17%. So the difference between these two numbers is also another way to arrive at the answer, right? So 960, I'm going to do this in my head. 960 minus $1 is 860. 860 minus 40 is 820. 820 minus them 4 pennies right there is still $8.16. And I always think that's real cool when you find the same answer doing a math problem 2 different ways. I always thought that was real cool. Even when I was a young boy, I always thought that was real cool, you know? But that's just something I wanted to get into today. Nothing real heavy, nothing real major. And, you know, and I hope that added value to you. I hope you benefited from that. I hope it makes sense. But, you know, practice some problems like this. You know, when you find yourself out and about in a situation, dealing with commerce, buying, selling, whatever, or you, in a situation where you just need to calculate the percentage of something, you know, try this out. It's called the percent table method. The percent table method. All right. So please like the video, subscribe to the page if you haven't already. Tell more people about the page. This is All This Math. All right. And remember that there's all this math all around you. Peace.